everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we're back working on our old Oliver 550 diesel here. We're going to start going through the fuel system, get the injector sorted out, get everything cleaned up, new filters. We're going to clean out the tank, and we're going to start fresh and hope we don't have any more surprises, because I don't need, if it screws up again, that'll be the third oil pan full of diesel fuel. We've already had two. We don't want any more. Okay, so now we're going to have a go at fixing our injectors. They could be identified by they've all got the number stamped in them, so if you have to order parts, some of them are more popular than others, but they made millions and millions and millions of these things over the years. So your local injector shop, a diesel shop, should be able to get their fingers on what you need. We're not going that far right now. All we're going to do is open these things up and see what we see inside them. I already found the problem. Remember when we took out number 4? It was all wet. Well, once we get this one apart, I'll show you what I found in number 4. Anyway, or at least I think that was the problem. Without having an actual flow bench to test them and to pressurize them and make sure they're not going to leak, it's hard to say. But anyway, all we can do is hope we got it. So, first thing we do, it's got a couple of flats on it, right? So we mount it in a vise by the flats. And we're going to take this cap off. This cap here, a 3/4 inch 12-point socket. And this is the retainer for the actual injection nozzle. So you just, wrong one. This one. 3/4 12-point. And give her up. And off she comes. And once we've got that unscrewed, I sit it on top of this socket. I get a 3/8 socket. There we go. That just goes around the outer perimeter of this. And we just tap that baby out. So that's our seal washer. That's also very important in the mix. There. So you can see there, that's what came out of this. The nozzle retainer, the nozzle, and the little poppet valve. What are we going to do now? Okay. Now we got to work on the other end of this. So we're going to clamp it in the vise. See, there's a flat on the back there. So we're just going to grab it by that flat. You don't have to grab it all that tight. And then we're going to use a 1 and where did I put it? Well, this guy. 1 1/16, and we're going to remove the cap. There we go. Now you'll see here, there's an adjuster screw and a lock nut. Don't mess with that. That is factory set, or at least set at an injection shop that's got the specifications and can run these things and flow the proper amount of fuel. We don't have that capability, so we're just going to assume that's right. But what you will see, there's 2 flats on here, and that will unscrew this guy. And we'll see if it wants to budge or not. It's an 11/16 wrench. No. So what we do in this case, we take it out. And remember the 2 flats we talked about? You just lay it on there. And give those 2 flats a few whacks. And just that little bit of mechanical shock should loosen this up. It should come right off now. Yeah, there we go. And then what comes out next is the spring. And then under the spring is the little push rod. See? Little push rod. Now I will attempt to explain how this thing works. So, you've got this push rod that sits in there, and this spring pushes down on it, and this keeps tension on it, right? So the push rod pushes against that end of the poppet valve, which sits down in there in our nozzle. And you can see when it's in the nozzle, see that? How it just sticks out the end? So what happens is, you'll see there's 3 holes radially around that in the bottom of that channel there. And fuel is injected, the pump sends a pulse of fuel into this injector, which actually, there we go, gets right on there and actually lifts this valve off its seat and allows the injector to inject fuel. And how you set up, how sensitive it is, or how much it injects or not, is by the tension we put on this spring with that jam nut and adjusting screw. That's why we don't mess with it. Anyway, what I found in injector number 3 and injector number 4, when I took the valve out of the nozzle, it was full of junk and crap. There was stuff in there that was preventing the nozzle from fully seating, and that was letting the injector drip and just literally run diesel fuel into the cylinders like a tap. So hopefully, just taking these things out, cleaning everything. We're also going to clean out all the fuel lines, and I will not even attempt to start this thing again until it's got new fuel filters and the fuel tank has been flushed out. But the first step is these injectors. So all you do with these is you find, we're just going to start with a bottle brush, and we're going to clean the inside of the nozzle. We're going to just give this a slight polish with a bit of Brillo pad. And then all the rest of this stuff, we're just going to give it a good clean and blow it with compressed air and make sure there's nothing in there at all and put it back together. Now we're going to go ahead and get all these parts cleaned up. I just use brake cleaner and blow them out. And if I see something that I think I might want to run a brush down, you know, like down the middle of that body or something, we can do that, run a little brush down it. And then we'll blow them all out with compressed air and let them dry. So the first thing we're going to go at here is the nozzle. And we want to make sure this end and the seat and everything are all clean. This is all blown out. And now we have to make sure that the valve fits perfectly in the nozzle. And you got to get it just started in there. And it should actually be like, I don't want to say tight, but you should feel the drag because this is an absolute precision fit. And you'll see that the end of it come out there when it's closed. That's closed, and as it's running, it'll come off its seat like that, and that's how it works. So once we've got that done, we can sit this on here, right? And the nozzle holder is going to get screwed on, and then we'll put this thing in the vise and give it a good reef tight. There's probably a torque spec for it, but at this time, I do not know it. Now we can load the stuff in the top. First thing that's going to go in is the stem or the push rod, whatever you want to call it. Then our spring. Then we've got a little spring seat. Then the adjuster assembly goes in. And we'll just tighten that up with our open end wrench. Whoops. Like that. Then our copper gasket. Get on there. And then we'll give that a little pop with our bar here. There we go. And that's it. We have to install the fitting for the spill port. So we'll do that now. So just put a little thread sealant on it. Shouldn't really need it because it's dissimilar metals, but anyway, we just want to make sure we don't have any leaks. Now what we're going to do is we've got a couple of flare nuts we're going to screw into this. So that way when we're messing around with the wrench turning it, we have no chance at all of crushing the ends of it so that we can't we can't get our fittings in after. And it happens very easily with these small brass fittings. It happens easier than you may think. And this is just going to go, it's kind of on a funny place to tighten it, but there, it just goes like that. Now we'll reinstall our, that's what actually seals the injector against the cylinder head. This seals the combustion chamber from the outside world. Theoretically, we should probably put new ones, but they are dead soft copper, so they theoretically are, I guess, are reusable. All right, now we can go ahead and get these injectors back in the head. I'm going to put some anti-seize on them, so hopefully they'll come out a little easier next time, but, you know, who knows? And it's very important when they go in, you got to make sure while you're putting it in that you don't lose that little washer, because that'll ruin your day in a hurry. When I took this thing apart, I removed these fittings from the spill ports because the fuel line fittings behind them were so tight, I couldn't get straight on them with the wrench because of these, so I took them off. Well, I put them back in on the bench. Then when I went to put the injectors back in, I found that this guy here, the spill port fitting hits the pump. So I said, no problem, I'll just pull the studs out. Well, guess what? The studs go into water. So, one thing leads to another. We're draining the water now, and I'm kind of glad I am because it is nasty looking stuff. So we'll get that all out of there, and that gives us the opportunity to get some fresh stuff in. And I think while we're at it, once the water's drained, we're going to get the rat out of here, because another thing I noticed, some master mechanic has put the fan on backwards. I guess they were thinking that it would be a pusher fan, but a fan on backwards is not a pusher fan. It's just a fan on backwards. So, oh boy. So while we got the radiator out, we'll flip the fan around. I want to, I think, remove that stuff down there from when it used to have a front mounted hydraulic pump on it. Because when that thing is there, it's so close to that cast iron frame or canoe, whatever you want to call it, you can't get the fan belt off. So that's no good. So that's got to go too. We'll do that while we're at it. I also have to get 2 fuel filters. The primary one over on the other side is just a normal cartridge style filter. This guy here, the secondary one, it's actually a completely sealed unit. So I have to find the number and see if I can get one of those. I'm not too sure. That might be the easiest thing to find. We may have to go to a more modern style, like a separate head with a spin-on filter. We'll find out. We'll figure it out. Oh well, at least it's Monday night. And you know what that means? It's Star Trek night. And guess what? I think I showed you this the last time we had Star Trek night in here. Kirk is going to fight the Gorn. Oh boy. So now I'm just stripping all the fuel lines and the old filters and stuff off. I pulled the primary filter down. Look at all the junk inside it. I mean, it's doing its job. Hopefully it hasn't let any of that junk past. But that's indicative that it's been in there a long time. We'll see how bad it looks when we actually pull it out. Yeah, lots of junk in there. That'll need a good cleanup. And sometimes if they're really dirty, they'll actually feel the weight in them. This was not too bad, but you can see it's pretty blackened in there. So it was getting due for a new one, and at least thankfully there's a number on it, so that makes things a little easier. Well, look at that. It does have a thermostat in it. I wasn't really sure if it had one or not. So while I was ordering parts, I knew I'd be in there, so I ordered one on spec. But yeah, that's all right. We'll put a new one in it. This hose is as hard as a rock. It's a good thing we'll replace that. I mean, I don't even have to buy that. I'll just cut a hunk out of an old hose from a car. I got millions of them. Same thing with the lower hose. It's just 2 hunks of straight hose. So that's nearly done draining. We should have this radiator out of here shortly. Here we go. The Gorn is there. And well, he's not happy. He's a big lizard guy, and he's going to go find something to beat Kirk to a pulp with. Like that tree. Kirk, you better get out of there.
Undoubtedly, dangerously clever.
Oh, there you go, Kirk. Yeah, that's going to work. Better get out of there. There's the secondary fuel filter. The owner's manual says change that twice a year. When do you think the last time this one was changed was? Holy moly. Hopefully I can get one. I pulled the primary fuel filter off, and you can see here this plug. They use the same block if it was a gas or a diesel engine. And this here is where the distributor would have come out of if it was a gasser. I guess if this thing pissed me off enough, you could probably open it up, change the pistons, get a gas distributor and an intake manifold and a carburetor and make it into a gasser. That'd be something, wouldn't it? But we'll stick with the diesel. Anyway, I think that's it for our coolant. Good. Our parts for the old Oliver have showed up. So we could start putting this thing back together. But something I thought about, I was laying in bed and I said, you know, all that diesel fuel in the oil pan, that literally happened overnight. I said to myself, there's no way in hell a dribbly injector could do that. No, you know what it is? It's this, the lift pump. The diaphragm in it is cracked or broken or ruptured. And you can see here, unlike the usual configuration of a mechanical fuel pump, where the diaphragm in that is below the arm, this one is upside down. So if the diaphragm leaks, there's no other place for the fuel to go. There's no weep hole. It just goes down through the housing and fills the oil pan with fuel. So that's what's gone on here. Now this pump is hard to find. I saw some for $350 American. Ouch. But I found an Oliver Specialist parts place. They have an overhaul kit. Looks like it's got all modern stuff in it. 33 bucks. So we're going to pull this thing off, overhaul it. Then we can put this all back together with our new lines and everything. And we should be in good shape. Or pardon me, new filters, not new lines. We're moving along here. We're getting the injector lines back on. You just put them on one by one. Make sure you get them good and tight. And I blow all of them out before I put them on, just to make sure there's no junk inside them that's going to bung up our newly no new parts rebuild injectors. Once we got these on, we're going to do the same thing. We'll blow out all the spill lines or return lines, whatever you want to call them, and we'll get those put on. And we're going to slowly start working our way back around. We're going to get the secondary fuel filter on and work our way back to the other side where we can overhaul our lift pump and get things rolling. That's all back together and looking good. The last thing we did was put the clamp on there. It just kind of keeps the injector lines from rattling, because there's a lot of pressure in there, you know, when these things pop off. So that just clamps them all together, supports them. We're all set now. We're going to go ahead and install the secondary filter. This is kind of a weird filter, but what are you going to do? That's what it requires, so that's what we're putting on. Man, it will be a happy day when I finally get this thing back together and running and get this flipping loader off of it. Oh, wow. It just, nothing makes working on an old tractor more fun than one of these bloody old jungle gym loaders. They were great in the day. I mean, there was nothing else. That you needed a loader, but man, they sure made life fun. There we are. That was fun to get that little filter on. Anyway, it's on. So that's pretty much all of the fuel stuff on this side. Now we're going to tackle that lift pump. It's pretty easy to get it off. Just undo the lines, a couple of bolts off the block, and I'll see you at the bench. Okay, so there's not much to this. First thing we're going to do is get the sediment bowl off, and that's going to be full of diesel fuel. So I'll try to keep it right side up. Get this off and we'll go dump it. We don't need this line here, so we're going to get that out of the way. And then we can go ahead and remove these screws, and we should be able to split our pump. You can see it's an AC pump. Pretty popular on stuff from that era. AC was a big player in the fuel pump market. And I think we'll find, I'll see you when we get in here. I'm pretty sure we're going to find that our diaphragm is ruptured. See how clean it is in there? So clean. That's a good sign that there's been diesel fuel running down through there, washing everything. So now we need to remove this retainer plate here, which will let us pull the arm out, because the arm is kind of hooked into the stem on the diaphragm. Yeah, it'll make more sense when I get it out. I'll show you how it all goes together. Well, that was fun. Hope we find everything. Here we are. We've got all our parts cleaned up. We've got our new bits for the fuel pump laid out. You can see here the old diaphragm was definitely compromised. There's some funny bulges and stuff in the back side of it. You can also see here where it's all cracked and broken. That would have been letting fuel run through it. And back out to the other side, it's all soft in the back side there. Definitely beyond its best before date. Here's a new one. It looks like it's made out of a little bit more modern stuff, so hopefully it will last a little longer. Comes with a few different parts. The return spring looks a little different, but you know what? It should work just fine. So we're going to go ahead and load all this stuff in here exactly opposite of how we took it out. So the diaphragm goes in, you see there, and then we'll put this arm back together, and this hooks into it. I'll see you in a bit when I got it together. All right, we got this back together, and you can see, wonder of wonders, the land of almost fits strikes again. The diaphragm is crimped on in the wrong place, and you can see here, the holes don't line up. Unbelievable. Everything you buy is absolute flipping garbage. It is so disheartening. Anyway, we'll deal with that one thing at a time. Next thing we're going to do is work on this. You can see it's got these two caps on the top, and underneath those two caps are the two one-way check valves. So we'll get those replaced, and then we can see about getting this thing back together. You can see here, I mean, the last time this was apart, it looks like the holes also didn't line up because there seems to be some some extra ones in it. You just can't get good stuff anymore, man. Seemed like putting this together first would be the easier way to do it, because it's kind of awkward to hold to get these nuts off. So that's what I did. I just went around, I drilled new holes in the diaphragm. Pissed me off that I had to do that, but that's what we did. I just don't want to wait weeks again for another one to show up that'll be assembled wrong the other direction. So it's together. Now we'll change check valves. Well, it turns out these are definitely the check valves. Unfortunately, they are completely different than these. So I guess those are spare parts. Now we have to get the glass bowl back together. So this here is the inlet screen. It's a little bit, it's kind of like a labyrinth thing that the fuel goes through for the very first bit of filtering. Unlike just a piece of brass screen like we have on a Ford or a Ferguson. And then we've got a glass bowl. Now, there should be a new gasket go on this, but like everything else, we don't have one. My mistake, assuming that the fuel pump kit would come with a new gasket, I didn't order one separate. Well, you know what happens when you assume. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're putting it together, and if it leaks, it leaks. We'll deal with it then. All right, we got the mounting area cleaned up. And you can see in there the lobe of the cam that it runs on. So we have to get that shoe. That's kind of interesting. I've never seen one like that, but we'll get that shoe engaged on the cam. Get her bolted on, and then we can hook up our lines. There's that all back on. It was a little bit fun. I had to bar the engine over a little bit to get that cam in just the right place that I could get the fuel pump in and get the bolt started. As usual, like everything else on the other side, if this stupid yellow monster loader wasn't in the way, it would have been a lot easier. If the loader wasn't here, I probably would have just popped off this drag link, and it would have been so much easier. But anyway, it's back. Now we're going to get the primary fuel filter serviced up and back on, and that'll be it for our fuel system repairs. First thing we find here is the gasket. Well, there seems to be two of them. That could mean two things. That could mean the last guy that changed it didn't know there was a gasket there and put the new one on top of it, or it means they couldn't make the thing stop leaking and added a second gasket. We're going to find out. We're going back to one. We'll get this thing cleaned up, put our new gasket in. There is another gasket that goes on here. All it really does is seal against the face of the filter. I think this is the one that goes there. But I was having a little bit of difficulty trying to coax this thing out. And the problem is, oh, here it comes. Here it comes. Sometimes you worry because if you actually go ahead and wreck this thing, and then the new one that you got doesn't fit, now you got nothing, right? But anyway, oh, because it was glued in. That's interesting. Yeah, so that is just fine. That one goes right in there. Good. All right, so we're all set. There's that all buttoned up. And with that, our fuel system is all back together. This probably ended up a longish video. I should have made it into 2 videos probably, but it is what it is. I'm more concerned with getting this bloody thing out of my shop than I am about getting a bunch of videos out of it at this point in time. But hey, you know, we got her done. It would have been a lot easier if I wasn't wrestling around this loader. But it is what it is. Anyway, I'm going to take off now. I'd like to thank you for coming and checking out our channel. Hope you'll come back and see us again. And until then, I'm Kevin saying so long from the Claremont Classic Garage.